Welcome back to Decked Out Jon Boats. We're going to be joined by Merrick McClure. He's the president of SWAT, Small Water Angling Teams. How is it that you came up with the idea to create the small water angler teams?
So first off, let's start with a name. I want to give credit right off the bat to one of my good friends that literally got me started in electric only fishing. Uh, Robbie Hardy. He used to fish with high voltage. Um, I wound up going up there and I just, had a little old 15-foot little fiberglass tri-hull boat. Started fishing up there at Latham when it first opened up, and met Robbie Hardy and Danny Pruitt as well. Me and him, we used to throw little pot tournaments every once in a while. Used to call it back in the day the Latham Potluck Crew, and got on GON Woody's forum, and back in the day, I mean the forums were. Now we have podcasts and video casts and all that for YouTube
Right.
and stuff, but back then it was just you sit behind a computer and you're typing to
Bass Fishing
everybody.
homepage.
Yep, yep. So Robbie and me, we fished together for uh, off and on a year. I would sub occasionally when his dad wasn't able to fish. So he told me, he's like, I have got the name that would be one of the best names out there for John Boat. And he told me it's Small Water Angler Team, SWAT. So before we established SWAT, our first year uh, was back officially, like when we started our clubs up, was back in 2009. So this is our 12th year of running small water angler teams. And before establishing it, I talked with Robbie and I was like, hey man, I'm just wanting to make sure, I know it's your name, you gave it, but I will make sure to the nth degree to always give you full credit. So we started off with just, 6, 7 guys showing up, communication through Woody's forum, which is the GON forum for those that don't know it. And man, we just built a family. I mean, we've talked about, you know, big lakes and different folks. The best way I can explain it, and I'm sure you would agree with this, high voltage is the same way, is it's almost like a brotherhood of
Right.
men. I mean, just like firemen. I mean, you put firemen and policemen together, they start squirming. It's kind of like the same way you put big bass boat tournament, fishermen to small boat lake fishermen. You know, we have a camaraderie that really holds very, very tight. So we have a great group of anglers in small water angler teams, and 12th year running, and man, some people already started coming right out of the gate swinging hard.
So was your first small water angler teams tournament at Latham, or did y'all come up with a schedule and start off somewhere else?
So you put me on a spot with that. I'm gonna have to actually pull it up on my computer right now, just that way I can kind of see. Okay, so February 7th, 2009, our very first event was Carter's Re-Rig. If I remember correctly, that was the first tournament that Kevin and Dustin, looking at here at the sheets now, Kevin and Dustin won that tournament, 5 fish limit for 6 pounds even. And
Blew
if
it
I
out of the
remember
water.
correctly, that same tournament they had caught, and it's the only one I've ever heard from being caught down there. They caught a rainbow trout that was well over a pound, if I remember correctly. We had 8 anglers for that very first official small water angler team. And keep in mind, we did run, I think, like a year before that, just kind of throwing little pot tournaments, not really point system, but um, established at that time. So
So how many boats did you say showed up to that first event?
it was 7.
7. And out of those 7, how many of those people are still active in the club?
So just kind of going through the list, we had Kevin and Dustin, Don and Randy. Uh, so Randy's still with us. Randy's brother Donald, had the stroke
Right.
back during the 2019 season, and it's kind of restricted him being able to get out there on the water and stay out there as long. So Heart's been going out to him tremendously. I know Randy's been getting them out on the water some. So myself, at that time I was fishing with my nephew Hunter. And then we had Lonnie and Andy, so they no longer fish with us. Um, we had Hunter and Jack, my brother-in-law. They no longer fish with us. We have Nick and Keith. They still currently fish with us in small water angler teams. Jeff and Jason, father and son team. Uh, they'll be back at some point. I know Jeff loves fishing. He just is really consumed with work. And then Matt and Josh. So it's just a handful that's there.
But that says something about, the culture that we have with the electric only. I mean, when you build one of these specialized rigs, you get to see the same people all the time. We get to be a community, and that's something that I missed when I was on the big lakes.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So in SWAT, what lakes do y'all fish on your schedule?
So our 2020 schedule, we fish Carter's Re-Regulation Lake. It is the lower lake to Carter's. There's the upper pool and then the lower pool. The lower pool is where they literally they generate power from the upper lake by letting the water through the pipe system, and they generate power to the lower lake. Um, so that lake of all the lakes that we fish, and a lot of our guys was talking about it Saturday. If there's a lake that always haunts everybody, it's Carter's Re-Reg. It is feast or it's famine, and I mean you're either on it or you're not on that lake, and it can just a light switch, and just literally you can get in a small window of just minutes of fish feeding and catching them. So Carter's Re-Reg, we fish coming up in our February event. We'll be fishing Rocky Mountain, PFA. Everybody's familiar with it. It's a public fishing area over in Rome, the other side, north of Rome, just a little bit. We fish Antioch. We don't fish the Trophy Lake. Really neat with Rocky Mountain. When we first started fishing our club, we couldn't host tournaments at Rocky Mountain. Rocky Mountain had it to where they did not allow tournaments for money. I had talked through with some folks that it got me in connection with certain people that helped rewrite the laws, the rules, however you want to call it. I think it was just the rules for the PFA, that they would allow events to happen out there. Very first year, it was phenomenal. I mean, like, amazing. I guess now with pressure and everything else, it's a window thing. You just got to be there at the right time. So hats off to DNR. They do an amazing job on that fishery. Then we fish Hollis Q Latham Reservoir, Cherokee
Right.
County Water Sewer Authority. They maintain that reservoir. It's water supply. So basically it's just for drinking water supply backup. So that way if they ever need to take and release water, their intakes just downstream from there in the Etowah River, they're able to take and have that sustainability of water in the future. So we fish there. It's about, if I remember right, 370 something acres, I think, maybe. Don't hold me to that. 373, somewhere around that range. Then we fish. We actually added this year. We'll be fishing it in March. Hard Labor Creek Reservoir. A lot of our guys really loved it. They qualified for top four, and we all talked about it. It would benefit our guys to be able to get down there and get some more knowledge base going down there in March fishing that lake. So
Yeah, it's
we're planning on fishing it.
hard to miss that one.
Yeah. Even though, I mean, from us in North Georgia, I mean, I don't mean to sidetrack and go back on this, but that was when High Voltage kind of got going, with their club 20, 30 years ago, wasn't it? I think something like that.
Yeah,
They always talk about farm ponds starting out, hopping ponds, fishing tournaments. That's what they've done. They stuck a lot of, Latham was like more of the most northern lake that they come to in North
Right.
Georgia. So when I got talking with Robbie and everything like that, and when the idea of SWAT, small water angler teams, we wanted a home base to North Georgia. There wasn't nobody in North Georgia. We didn't have that many reservoirs to know, but we're a small enough group. We could fish some of these smaller lakes that now we can no longer fish. So Didn't mean to sidetrack on that. Um, Another lake we fish is Hickory Law Creek Reservoir. It's owned and maintained. It's a joint partnership between Cobb Marietta Water Sewer Authority and the City of Canton. Um, it's a 75-25 split ownership. So it's, again, a water supply reservoir that they're able to take and hold the water back. So that way for future demands. I don't believe they're able to take and start utilizing the water yet, um, meaning for them to be able to release and start pulling water for Cobb Marietta. But the city of Canton has a intake structure just downstream from the reservoir, and I believe they have for we have it for future demands for the city of Canton. So um, it's 400 something acre reservoir. It's 3 miles from the boat ramp to the dam where you put in. It's furthest point away. Um, Decent fishery. It's getting better. Used to, you go up there and catch 5 fish for 3 pounds. I mean, that was winning tournaments in the beginning. So now you can go up there. The fish are about a pound to 2 pound range. So it's steadily increasing year after year. Just hopefully we don't get a major die off a shad. Um, and I do believe, I'm trying to think in my mind, I think that is the only lakes that we fish. We have some others. Um, I keep eye on the news and stuff like that and media that a lot of these jurisdictions are talking about adding new reservoirs. Glades Farm was one that they talked about getting started, and it's kind of fizzed out. I think Dawson County, they've got one that they're in permitting phases right now that I've heard that it will go through. I think it's only a couple hundred something acres. There's one that we will be adding to the schedule. I have not had conversations with them, so I've got to find out from them, make sure everything's okay before we can actually officially say we're going to be able to fish it. Um, so one of the lakes that we're going to be adding, hopefully in the future, um, once we conversate and talk with them and stuff like that, make sure they're okay with it, is over the other side of Cartersville. There's a new reservoir that's going to be opening up. I got liked them on Facebook. Keep watching the updates, seeing how the dam's completed. I have not seen the moment where they're starting to fill it yet, so I'm waiting any day. I'm hoping that I think this year's once they're going to start filling it up. It's called Richland Creek Reservoir. I want to say it's about 400 acres, 500 acres as well. So it's going to be a fun little lake to fish, I'm sure, once they get it completed. And I know how it typically works. Once they start filling it, they'll stock the lake with fish, and there'll be a moratorium on them for probably 2 years. So we're still looking at probably 3 to 5 years before it probably gets anything of decency to it.
Gotcha. So yeah, they're adding a lot of these smaller reservoirs. Now y'all had your first tournament this past weekend, and where was that event?
So we kicked off our 2020 season. Typically, our guys usually vote on our schedule. Previous year, we always like to tend to start, spotted bass fishery, something that maybe cold temperatures don't affect it as much. And Carter's re-reg usually is about the best selection for January. I mean, water temperatures up there was 51, 52 degrees. It pretty much stays stable just because of the releasing that they do from the upper lake to the lower lake. So, depending on which elevation they pull from, it can, change that temperature range some. So we had our first event. Of course, we had a Pete and repeat. Came right back in again from repeating 2019 season, starting off at the re-reg. Mike and Chris, the 2019 Georgia Bass Tech winners, they wound up coming through up there and swinging for the fence and going back to their same pattern they done last year, and it pulled through for them. They had 14.52 pounds
Nice.
and won the event, and they're leading currently in points for the first event.
So how about second and third? What did they end up with, and who was that?
So second and third is you know them and you've followed them around some, is Randy and Geiger. They come in second place. Um, I mean, if they're a consistent angler, I would say the state that you can just rely on all the time to come through. It's Randy and Geiger. They are a very methodical team, able to pick things apart. They come through. They sat in one hole. I think pretty much. I've not talked to to Geiger or Randy, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, everybody's watching, keeping eyes out on the lake and stuff like that. I mean, I could see, they stuck in one spot for the most part, had 11.75 pounds with a 5 fish limit. So
Yeah, if the bite, if it's tough, I mean they're gonna be up there in those top three probably. It's just
yes,
their style of fishing. Like they can sit there and soak a worm or pull a drop shot, shaky head. I mean they can definitely slow it down and put a hurting on you when things are tough.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Then our third place team, man, you cannot never rule them out. They are, I still consider them rookies. I mean, I know it ain't their first year in, but Thomas and Ryan, they are phenomenal anglers. We started out right beside Thomas and Ryan. Me and JV had kind of a gut. Hey, start right here. They started right there beside us. We pulled up. We started fishing it. JV caught one little short fish, threw it back, fired back out there. Man, he hooked into. I mean, the rod doubled over. I mean, doubled over like JV sitting there. Oh, oh, man, this is a big one. I mean, 5+. It's gonna be big, Merrick. Get up to the boat, and this old whisker biscuit starts showing up there at the water. So it's old catfish. But um, we made a mistake. We left that spot, and then Thomas and Ryan pulled right in. And I ain't 100% if it was right there, but it wasn't a few minutes later. We made a couple of laps around that spot and come back to them and talked with them, and they said they done had a limit. So it's like that shows you on that lake. I mean, we were power fishing, and that was our mistake. So Thomas and Ryan, they come through. They had 5 fish limit for 10.92 pounds. So they're sitting third place.
Nice. Now, are any of those three teams predominantly early season anglers, or do they pretty much hold steady all year?
I don't want to degrade Mike and Chris, um, but I would, and I don't really know Thomas and Ryan. I mean, they fished. This is their second year in SWAT, so I really don't have a lot of history there with them. I mean, here's the thing though, you can even call somebody's history. I mean, you know it. I mean, some years it just, man, it just don't work.
Yeah.
Man, it's just, and then sometimes it's you cannot make a mistake. So um, Mike and Chris is great anglers. I mean, they really are. Um, and I think one of their weaknesses is kind of when it gets around the spawn time. Once it gets past the spawn time, they can turn it back on pretty strong, especially with post spawn fish. Randy Geiger's just, I mean, 24/7. I mean, I ain't trying to put them above anybody else, but they're just, I mean, Geiger's got the bed fishing down pat. I mean, he really does. You can't really, when you're doing John boat tournaments and stuff, it's really hard to do that run and gun pattern of bed fishing. But um,
I mean,
all in all,
if they get up there where you can see them, I mean, somebody's gonna see them and somebody's gonna catch them,
yes.
and that makes
And
it
it,
harder on the tournament guys.
and it don't even take it. Like if you get once you start getting around that, it can start happening. And we ain't far if you really think about it. I mean, we're in February.
Yeah.
Man, March, fish start showing up. So I mean, we are a blink of an eye, and these fish are here. So I mean, it don't take much. You can be out there on the water. These anglers are good enough to know when they start seeing people cruising around the bank. Certain anglers cruising around the bank. They know what's going on
Right.
underneath the water. So, but Thomas and Ryan, they really proved their point uh, during the 2019 season to qualify for the 2020 Bass Tech. And I would say their strongest event was Rocky Mountain. I mean, they're sight fishermen. They're good at it too. I mean, they pulled it out pretty strong, pretty heavy, and I wouldn't rule them out. They are just as consistent as Randy and Geiger. Um, and again, I'm not trying to take the spotlight away from Mike and Chris in any way, but I mean, they're just it's kind of one of them ones, you just lick your finger, just put it up there and peg it. They're there, you know.
Gotcha. So, what is y'all's next event? Where y'all headed next, and when?
So So our next tournament is scheduled for February the 20th. We'll be at Rocky Mountain PFA. Um, Obviously fishing for sunrise till 3 p.m. and putting in Antioch East Ramp and see how many people wind up making that journey through the tunnel to the west side, or how many people wind up staying right there on the east side.
What do you think the weights are going to be like for that event?
Me and JV done talked about it. It all weather depicting. I mean, it really, if these cold fronts stick, JV feels like it's going to be brutal. Me and him talked about it Saturday. We just like, it could be one of them tournaments you might get a couple of bites, maybe. Um, but you just, that's the thing. Like Rocky Mountain is about like re-rig. You just, those fish about like the Alabama strand. I don't know if they're Florida strand fish in Alabama or not, but it sets up just like them shallow water. Because if you look at Rocky ain't but like 30 feet deep.
Right.
So it really fishes like a shallow pond. Um, that I mean, weather depicts tremendously on those fish. And I mean, one cold front, man,
Shuts
it
them
could beat
down.
them. But um, I don't believe we're going to have the warm spells enough to trigger them.
Get them
But
turned around,
I
headed
would,
to the bank.
it'll be in the teens. I mean, I'm thinking 15, around that range probably. And I don't believe there'll be many limits come in. Now, if a warm spell comes in enough, you'll definitely, there'll be enough fish cruising, not up on the bank, but on those offshore structures, and you know, getting more vertical in the water column, but not yet up to the bank.
Right.
And people will key on that.
So if somebody's looking to follow the SWAT anglers during the year, how can they? Where can they? What outlets do you have that they can follow SWAT?
So with the rain that happened last Saturday, I just started doing it. Got a YouTube channel that I'll try to take and post up, the weigh-ins and stuff like that, just showing everybody come through the scales. So our YouTube channels, our name, Smallwater Angler Teams. Um, Predominantly now it seems like all of our anglers is jumped on board with a Facebook, creating Facebook pages. So we have a Smallwater Angler Teams Facebook page. It's our name, Smallwater Angler Teams. We have a website. It is www.smallwateranglerteams with an S at the end .webs.com.
Very good.